What's up, cool people? My name's Matt, aka The Random Christian Gamer, coming at you with another game review. So, today I am looking specifically at Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. This is the Final Mix, which has some slight changes compared to the original version, which was released back... Oh, geez, I forget exactly the year. I want to say sometime around 2002? On the PlayStation 2. But, in any case, I think the Final Mix does have a slight graphics update, so that's a little bit better. There's also some other things, some other aspects of gameplay that they've just added in and tweaked some things here and there from the original version. First things first, I'm gonna go to the Gummy Ship. At least as far as the, like, kind of main entries in the game are concerned. You know, this is something that pops up and is fairly important because it's how you travel between different places in the game. Helix, what's up? How's it going? I'm gonna go ahead and warp myself over here. Actually, no. I'm not going to warp anywhere. I will instead go with the normal drive, show you how the Gummy Ship stuff works. I forgot I was using this, like, majorly beefed up version of the ship that doesn't even have, like, regular cannons or anything. So, there is some, you know, ship customization for this part of the game, which is nice. The way it works is a little bit... the way the customization works, I should say, is a little bit clunky, though, if I'm honest. Oh, jeez. Am I just completely out of ammo of all types now? Seems like I am. Leaves me in a bit of a pickle. That is something to take note of, though. Like, if you're not careful... you can very much get yourself in trouble here. Totally just realized I was covering up the, like, health bar of the ship and other things like that. Okay, real quick, now that I've showed a little bit of that, gonna quick go to the garage here. So yeah, you can customize your ship in pretty much any way that you want, as long as you have the blocks for it. But at the same time, the layout of it is, like I said before, a little bit clunky. Like, the interface for customizing things is... yeah, just... it's not especially intuitive, if you ask me. Like, especially this part right here. Pressing up and down, like, moves you forward and backward, which is really weird if you're at an angle like this. To actually move up and down on the ship, you need to use, like, the left bumper or trigger. So, anyway, just kind of a slight... knock on that aspect of the game. Give that like a 7 out of 10, maybe. Anyway, now I'm actually going to warp somewhere and just go ahead and show you the main part of the gameplay. I guess, on the whole, genre-wise, this might be considered like an action RPG? I don't know, so there's definitely RPG, like, leveling elements and things like that. But the combat is more like what I would have thought of as like a hack and slash, if you're familiar with that genre at all. Things like God of War, Devil May Cry, those types of games. This is just generally a more family-friendly option in that style. Now, what I will not be showing here, because I've already been all the way through the story, is any plot elements, really, because that is one of the things that this series as a whole is kind of known for, even if it's not always in the most positive light. Plot can get a little convoluted in some of the games, but this game it is definitely not. This is kind of your, you know, introduction to the series, so obviously they got to keep things a little simpler, just so you get to know the characters and be able to understand what's going on with them. Now this, like, you know, combat stuff for the most part is a solid experience, though. My main gripe relates to the shortcuts here. First off, later games in the series give you 4 shortcuts. This only gives you 3. And the later games will also generally allow you to put items in the shortcut list. This one only does magic. So you have to, like, awkwardly go down here to the items and use them like that. I mean, it's still better than having to open up like an entire pause menu worth of stuff, but at the same time, it's like, well, you can't... First of all, if I try and pause right now, it doesn't give me any pause menu. So, there's no other way to use items mid-combat. Yeah, certain things like that are a little less than ideal, but they're not terrible either. There's plenty of stuff to go around and collect, a lot of which can be used to create more powerful items. Oh, and then you get some enemies like these that are sort of unique in how you deal with them. This is like the most simple of all those cases. Some of them, especially in the Final Mix version here, are really odd how you're supposed to handle them. And the trouble with that then is, for the Final Mix version specifically, those more unique enemies that have odd ways to deal with them, like, you have to engage with those enemies and defeat them in that specific way to get some of the items needed, or, yeah, to get some of the, like, materials needed to craft some of the items. Let me go ahead and hop in the gummy ship again. We're going to go somewhere else so that you can see what I'm talking about with, like, the item crafting stuff. But yeah, having those very unique enemies that need to be handled in very odd ways that I guarantee you very few people would think of unless they looked up a guide. Can't say I like that change. And that's just a Final Mix thing. That was not like that in the original. So, like, if I go up here and talk to this Moogle character here, we open up the synthesis menu. So, as you can mostly see off to the right there, there's certain materials like the Spirit Shard, Power Shard, and that kind of stuff. If you have enough of those materials, you can craft these other items that are on the left. I have already put in the time and effort into crafting everything, but especially some of this stuff that's needed for the Ultima weapon is just an absolute pain to get. Because a bunch of these materials you have to get from very specific Final Mix only enemies in this version. And you have to deal with them in specific ways in order to get these items. So that's a change I kind of wish they didn't make. Before, you could do stuff, you know, with just normal enemies that would appear all the time. Some of the drop rates might have been lower. So I guess there is that slight advantage to dealing with enemies that way in the Final Mix version. But, still. It was a lot easier to figure out, though, without a guide. Like this. This is one such enemy. I'm not going to try and fight it right now, but essentially what you're supposed to do with this one is, you know, dispatch multiple of them without it calling on backup, essentially. Without it calling for more of them to come help. And if you do enough of that, then you have a decent chance of getting one of the materials. But otherwise, if it notices you, forget it. But, so aside from that kind of stuff, the main other change in the Final Mix is that there are, I guess there's other abilities that you can get, especially depending on which difficulty you play on. There are also, well, there is also at least one additional boss enemy that's like super boss endgame kind of deal. Which, that change I like. But, in fact, so if I go in and look at the ability list here, some of this stuff is, I think, specific to the Final Mix. I couldn't tell you which ones offhand. And I think if you play on higher difficulty levels, there are more unique ones that will appear. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, so, you know, we've got kind of your RPG elements that you see on this screen here. You've got your main party characters, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, and, oh yeah, for those who don't know, Kingdom Hearts basically take Final Fantasy and Disney and mash them together. With some other, you know, original characters kind of connecting the two. Most of the places you go to throughout this game are like Disney worlds with those characters involved. Usually the Final Fantasy type characters will either just be like sort of cameo appearances, or they'll like be significant to the broader plot of the game, and they'll appear in more unique to the series places like this. Although even in the more unique to the series places like this, you still get occasionally some Disney characters and other IPs showing up. I'm not using my magic very much. because the way I have it set right now, I guess, isn't conducive to that. But anyway, so you got attack options and magic options. Very much resembling a Final Fantasy type of game, especially the magic. You got your health, which is the green bar down there, well, in the bottom right for Sora, top right for Donald and Goofy, and then the blue bar with maybe some orange there too, yellowish orange. That's the magic. So yeah, even in worlds like this, you might get appearances from, oh look, 101 Dalmatians. That is completely normal for this series. To just be like, oh hey, Disney stuff. Even when you're not in a Disney specific world. Yeah, as far as the, like, leveling up, the RPG type elements, you know, ability to choose what kind of abilities your characters have. And then even, like, there's some stat boosting items in the game that you can kind of choose a little bit how you use them. Other things like that that sort of customize the experience a little bit more. Especially early on, you have a couple of choices as to, like, character specialties, you might say. Basically either attack, defense, or magic. And here's an example of one of the Final Fantasy characters that shows up. This is supposed to be Cid. I forget from which game specifically, but there's a journal thing where you can look all that up. Characters. Maybe in here. Cid, yeah. Okay, so they're saying this version of him is specifically from Final Fantasy VII, which has some heavy representation in this game, and really the series as a whole. But yeah, yeah, you also have ability to customize a little bit how other people in your party, which is mostly Donald and Goofy, end up behaving throughout the battles. You cannot, like, physically control them directly, but you can at least affect their overall behavior a little bit, which is nice. You got different equipment here, like weapons and armor, basically. Or more like weapon and accessories, for the most part. And of course, each character has different ones. Most of the other characters that you can have in your party are specific to certain worlds in the game. So, like, in the deep jungle where I was before, you could have Tarzan in your party. In Halloween Town is one of the other Disney worlds in the game. When you're there, you can have Jack Skellington in your party. They usually only have one weapon option, but you could still give them different, like, accessories and stuff. In this game, for the most part, you're not so much going to want to use the other world-specific characters, other than in very specific situations, where you gotta, like, you know, use them to open up something specific. But aside from that, you pretty much want Sora, Donald, and Goofy to all be there in the party, because you get these Trinity marks that appear, and you need to have those three active in your party to do that. So, yeah, not the best game in this series as far as incentivizing you to do that. Oh yeah, you can like glide and stuff real quick in this game eventually. There are also shops. Really only a couple of them in particular. This one's, I guess, supposed to be the accessory shop. Not sure how I don't have one of those. But anyway. And then a little bit further, you've got an item shop. There are a few, and only a few to my knowledge, occasions where you, like, absolutely do not have the option of leaving whatever world you're in and coming back here to stock up on things. But yeah, that's the general lowdown on how the game works. Overall controls are, I would say, fairly intuitive. Although I will say they probably seem a little more intuitive on PlayStation than on Xbox. Because normally, as far as like Xbox designed games are concerned, I tend to think of A as jump. Maybe that's just because Halo, but B is jump in this game. And A is attack. You've got X here, which you can use to like dodge, roll around, or block stuff if you're standing still. Y is usually just the interact with stuff button. Not too much else. But yeah. Still, on the whole, solid game option. Also, like, there's nothing bad content-wise about this game. Technically, it gets an E10 plus rating, I think, for fantasy violence. But honestly, I'm surprised it's not rated E. Like, this is about as close as you get to towing that line. So, on the whole, pretty good, you know, family-friendly option too. Especially this one being rather simpler story-wise, easier to understand, and, yeah, there's some moments that are going to take a little more thinking and maybe a little more skill, with some of the bosses that appear, but otherwise, it's, yeah, solid choice for, I'd definitely say for, like, ages 10 and up, which, duh, E10 plus, but even, like, a little lower than that, I could see it being a reasonable choice. As for whether or not I think the final mix is better than the original, it's kind of a toss-up, because there are some things that are a little bit better in the final mix. I'm trying not to be too swayed by the, you know, item retrieval and how some of the materials are kind of awkward to get in this version. So honestly, I'd say they're fairly even overall. Again, I think graphics might be a little bit better, or at least like color contrast and things like that might be better in this version. Aside from that, I think I've covered pretty much everything that I have to say about the game. Combat, as I said, for the most part, pretty smooth. Controls are pretty, you know, logical and easy to understand. Intuitive was the word I was using earlier. And really on the whole, there's not a whole lot to complain about with this game that's like genuinely a complaint. Yes, most of the game can be kind of easy, but then you've also got a couple of things that are a little challenging, especially if you're on a higher difficulty. And then there's like extra challenge added with some like kind of super boss type fights. In fact, let me go to Olympus Coliseum, because a couple of the optional fights are there just to give you an idea of... I'm not going to fight them necessarily, but just to give you an idea of some stuff that's available. So, yeah, like, difficulty-wise, I think there's a pretty good balance. I mean, beginner mode in particular is going to be easier, and that's the point of it. That's probably what I would recommend for, you know, younger players. And or if you really just want to enjoy the story more so. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Story, solid story as well. Like, even from like a specifically Christian perspective, whether or not you're a Christian, I mean, this has a solid story. But like the light and dark, you know, plot points being a major factor in here can definitely draw some parallels. You know, parallels to Christian beliefs and stuff you'd find in the Bible and all that. I'm going to talk with Phil here real quick. So... Oh, it just puts me right into this. Okay. Well, so this is one of the optional kind of sort of super bosses that you absolutely do not need to fight to get through the story. But it's the Ice Titan, which shouldn't be too surprising considering where we are. That this is an option. Why does it seem like I'm not able to block some of this stuff and deflect it back at the Ice Titan like normal? Oh well, anyway. So yeah, this stuff can be extra tough, especially if you're not prepared. That's some of the additional challenge that, you know, players who want that have options. Anyway, on the whole, solid game experience. I would say at least 8 out of 10 rating for me personally. Yeah, there's some stuff that could be a bit better. They generally tried to improve on that in later games in the series. This was the first one, though, so it's not entirely surprising that it's not, like, perfect. But again, really solid experience, and I'd even recommend it for really a variety of age groups. It's, you know, appropriate enough content-wise for, you know, younger players. And even, like, for adults, though, there might be other things that you might catch on to a little sooner with the story, and or, like, gameplay elements and skills that might be even better, you know, might be easier to pick up and utilize well for, like, an adult gamer. But anyway, so yeah. Solid game choice. Highly recommend it. Most places where you'll find it now, you're probably going to find it in some sort of collection of Kingdom Hearts games. I personally am running this from the HD 1.5 and 2.5 collection thing. But especially if you have a PlayStation console, there are other options. And yeah, on the whole, I definitely recommend it. So anyway, I think that covers all my thoughts on the game. Feel free to let me know if there's some element that you think that I've missed, or any questions that you have about the game, or anything like that. But I think that'll do it for this one. So, yeah. Until the next game review or whatever other video like that you might happen to watch from me, stay cool, people.